AM 950, The Fan, Rochester, an Odyssey sports station.
It's time to start the show and talk about the sports we saw. Inside jokes and takes from Danger and Battaglia. Bills and the Sabres and the Ambers. Who gave a microphone to these jerks? Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. With Danger and Battaglia.
It's Buffalo Bills game day. Shall we do a heavy lift, Gino? It's a heavy lift in the sports bar this afternoon as we take you up to pregame coverage of Bills Dolphins coming up here at 4 o'clock. Welcome into the sports bar. Danger and Battaglia. Glad you're with us. Thanks for listening. At 95.7 FM, AM 950. You can find the Fan Rochester wherever you stream, including Odyssey, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and our YouTube channel at the Fan Rochester as well. I'm Danger. That is Battaglia.
We're just essentially podcasters today. 1 hour. That's it.
1 hour.
1 hour.
The
work
only
done.
difference is we're not in our mom's basement. We are doing the podcast from a professional studio, our beautiful studios here at High Falls. Before we get you to Bills Dolphins pregame coverage, we'll have a final fantasy football conversation before you set your lineup for the Week 3 slate of games coming up here, which, of course, kicks off tonight in Orchard Park. Andy Behrens from the Deep Shot is going to stop by in about 25 minutes.
Yeah, there are some tricky situations here in Week 3 with the injuries in Cincinnati, the injury in Minnesota. What do we do here in Washington? Is there anything left over in your league in terms of a waiver wire pickup here on a Thursday? We love talking to Andy, normally 1 hour later, but getting him on a Thursday, helping us to optimize the lineup. And then, honestly, what do you do with Buffalo tonight? I'm asking that seriously because, hey, you're playing Josh Allen, but you can't expect Josh Allen 400 yards or whatever it was.
I mean, play out all the different range of outcomes for tonight's game. I think it's highly unlikely that here's what I would say. I would say a shootout feels highly unlikely, like a high-scoring shootout, kind of like what the Dolphins and Patriots had last week. Doesn't feel like that would happen, right? You don't have – Miami doesn't have that kind of offense, the kind of offense like Baltimore has, like we saw at Detroit or Los Angeles last year. So let's say that's not part of the range of outcomes. Could you see a game certainly where the Bills get off to a quick lead and Miami is scrambling? Yeah, I could see that. I could also see a game between these two teams where it's tight and competitive until the Bills kind of pull away or they force a turnover or a mistake, and that ends up being the difference of the game. To answer your question, I think you do with the Bills what you would do with the Bills on any week and say it's Josh Allen, it's James Cook, and if you want to throw a dart at Keon Coleman or Shakir, yeah, I would listen to that as well. The other one who's approaching the conversation of every week must start is because he's been consistent through 2 weeks is Dalton Kincaid. Dalton Kincaid at the tight end position.
Touchdown in Week 1.
Yeah, at the tight end position. He's been consistent, which you can't say for a lot of tight ends in fantasy football. So that's how I would deal with it in fantasy from a fantasy perspective. From a game perspective, we'll get into this here because, we're going to, like we said, we're going to be your pregame to the pregame. We'll talk about some of the matchups and keys for the Buffalo Bills here tonight. But it'll, Andy, there's no shortage of fantasy football topics going into Week 3. If you're a Joe Burrow owner like I am, are you prepared for the constant streaming of quarterbacks for the rest of the year? Are you buying into Daniel Jones? Are you here? Okay, bold prediction. Carson Wentz not only wins games for the Vikings, Carson Wentz finishes the season in Minnesota as the starter for the Vikings. I mean, he's going to retire and go into the Hall of Fame as a Minnesota Viking.
No way.
He's going into the Hall of Fame as a Minnesota Viking. Andy and I were going back and forth about this on X. Right. There's a little inside, but I can't wait to talk to Andy about it because, two of my favorites were engaging on X, Thor and Andy, talking about J.J. McCarthy and Carson Wentz. I'm like, boys, is it so out of the realm of possibility? When you look at the Vikings schedule, they have 3 very winnable games in front of them here. And if Carson Wentz, Carson Wentz 6'5", 235-pound quarterback from North Dakota State, blue-collar work ethic and Midwestern values. I just wanted to resurrect a bit.
Well, he has a career arc that I don't know who would have something similar. You forget, Danger. Year 1, a lot of fun. Year 2, he's the leading MVP candidate.
Correct.
And he gets hurt at the old LA Coliseum. It's not old. It's still there. They don't play there anymore. And he's out for the year. And then, wait a second. Then we get to the offseason, and the Philly Voice posts this article, and it's anonymous sources just saying, hey, he's not a good teammate, me first, all this other stuff. Funny thing happens is the Eagles end up winning a Super Bowl with Nick Foles. So Carson Wentz never regains a spot. Along the way, they draft Jalen Hurts, and he takes over. And, okay, maybe you just need a change of scenery, and whether that was with the Colts or any number of stops here along the way, Carson Wentz has never come close to regaining what he had before he got hurt in Philadelphia.
I can tell you that if there's a problem with Carson Wentz's personality in any of these other spots that he's been in, that won't be a problem in Minnesota. He is a Minnesota guy. They will, if he wins, they will eat him up. If he starts throwing darts to Adam Thielen, and Wentz and Thielen are both, like, they love Thielen in Minnesota. He's a Minnesota guy. He's like Buffalo Joe is to us, right? So I'm telling you, Wentz could win these next 3 games for Minnesota, and there's going to be a lot of people wondering, do we have to go back to J.J. McCarthy? He didn't look good through 2 weeks. He really didn't look good through 2 weeks. And Wentz is winning us games. I'm telling you, the Wentz wagon. Wheels have not fallen off the Wentz wagon altogether, buddy.
Or he looks terrible.
Cincinnati
wins by 3 touchdowns.
First
this week.
player ever to start for 6 different teams in 6 consecutive seasons.
Isn't that nuts? I couldn't even name. I guess he started for the Chiefs last year. He must have final week.
Mm-hmm. Pretty good.
Colts. I couldn't name you.
Colts, Chiefs, Rams.
Okay.
Of course, the Eagles.
You're gonna have the missing one.
Who else? Oh my God. He wasn't in Carolina. Was he a Raider? No. Let's hear it.
He was a Commander.
That's right.
Yeah, barely remember that. Yes, that's it. And he was actually it was Colts, didn't work out. Snyder brings him in, thinking, all right, I'm going to resurrect, and he was saying all the right things, and that ended terribly.
Yeah.
Forgot about that.
Yep, that's right.
That was only 3 years ago.
6 different teams, 6 different years, and he'll be starting for Minnesota this week. So we'll get into that with Andy. He is on the Deep Shot. You can check his workout there, formerly of Yahoo. We love catching up with Andy Behrens and talking fantasy football. Phones are open for you if you want to pull up a stool and join us. We always appreciate the engagement at 866-4326, 585-866-4FAN. If you want to give your prediction for tonight's action, I went on the break room this morning, Gino, as I do on a Football Friday, or in this case a Football Thursday, to give my prediction and do some of the over-unders that Duffy set for us there. Mm-hmm. I have the Bills winning tonight, 31-20. They win but don't cover.
Win but don't cover.
Win but don't cover. I think that's a lot of points, man. I know that that's the largest spread in the NFL this year. I always get nervous and jerky when I see that wide of a point spread. So I say Bills win but don't cover.
Okay. So while you were away, Mike Danger, some highlights here. We talked to PJ Glasser yesterday.
Love it.
And asked PJ for his take on this game. And I'll try to do my best, PJ. Gene, if you're going to play this game, have some fun with it. Tease it up. Bills by 20. Bills by 30.
Sure.
Bills by 40. I'm like, wow, okay. So PJ firmly planting his flag in Miami has no business. It's the NFL, blah, 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 yada, 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 any team. But here's how Miami could win this game, and you would have to have the perfect storm. Ready? I would say it's a combination of a special teams touchdown. You do something you haven't done in, 24 games? Lose the turnover battle. That all of a sudden the Bills get sloppy with the ball, and Miami gets short fields, maybe a defensive touchdown. And then it's an Achane game because, well, Yeah, we think the Bills are okay with the run defense, but they really weren't against Derrick Henry. What if that somehow shows up and Miami finds the magic formula? So if you get those three things, even if you get those three things, you still have Josh Allen who could pull it out at the end. I have Buffalo winning this game, barely covering. I'm going to go with the same 30 points that they got last week. Miami gets like a backdoor touchdown, 30-17.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I hear what PJ is saying, and I respect what PJ is saying. I think we would all love it if it was a blow. I mean, last week's game, I mentioned it was boring. It was boring how lifeless the Jets were, and I don't know that the Dolphins are going to come in that lifeless. You heard the Albert Breer report of the players only meeting, and we have to hold each other accountable no matter what our coaches are doing. It was something along those lines, right? Not a real great, kind of an indictment for how involved or not involved Mike McDaniel has been this season. And, the speculation of if it goes badly tonight, really badly tonight, does Mike McDaniel or Chris Grier lose their job after the game, knowing that they've got a little bit of a runway here before their Week 4 game?
Well, we talked yesterday to Brandon Tobin and Leroy, WQAM in Miami, and his take is, like, his show, people are already saying, let's go hire John Gruden now. And he identified the problem that we identified, like, okay, if you move from McDaniel, there's nobody with the interim tag.
That coaching staff is putrid.
There was one name that came up. I'm like, oh, and Terrible Take Timmy said, is this retroactive? I'm like, no, it's not retroactive. I couldn't ask Danger for it. Can you imagine a world where jock-sniffing Stephen Ross picks up the phone and says, Bill, come to Miami and help chase the record?
Belichick?
Yeah.
Can I imagine a world? I can imagine a lot of things when it comes to billionaire owners because they don't hear no very often. But I wouldn't. I don't think he would do that. And I think, honestly, I think the NFL is done with Bill Belichick.
Well, the point is, like, we couldn't come up with another instance where a head coach was moved off of 3 games. But we're going through this week, and we mark timeless sports. If you're a sports fan, that's what a lot of us do. This is deja vu. To me, this whole week is deja vu. Bills win big week 2, and we're all feeling good, and they come back home for a primetime game in week 3 last year. And in that week 3 game, it wasn't Thursday night. It was a Monday night. We're like, oh, my gosh. This
Jacksonville,
team,
right?
Yeah, this team is a disaster. This team hasn't everything. We had Mia O'Brien on from 1010XL, and she kind of clued us in like, no, they have some problems defensively. They can't do a lot of things. Like, okay.
The defensive guy she was talking about is now the Bills' special assistant or senior defensive assistant.
Yeah, Nielsen helping out on the defensive line.
Yeah.
I have the same feels for this game, Danger, where we can talk ourselves that Miami's going to rise up and they're going to, be bail out for their coach. But this feels like the end for this coach. And you were way ahead of the curve. I'm pointing out, like, what is with this guy? He's lost his mojo. He's up there saying things that don't make any sense. The energy level isn't there. He came in, and I thought it worked for a while. I thought, this is different. He knows how to talk to this generation's, the athlete of this generation, but I don't know, man.
This organization, the NFL and this organization has beaten him down to a pulp. Either that or he's sick. And I don't want to speculate. I don't know. But when you compare what he was like his first year as coach of this team, how he talked to Tua when the two of them first connected, all that was documented, right? We got to see all of that. And whether that was a show or not, it presented well. It presented like, okay, he can lead. He can actually be a leader. And that ain't it right now. And if you're somebody that thinks that Grier is going to lose his job, guess again. Grier has been there now so long that guy knows where all the bodies are buried, and there are a lot of skeletons in Stephen Ross's closet. He's not going to get rid of that guy because that guy will turn heel and expose Ross for the crappy owner that he is.
It's crazy to think that you want that to happen. You want Grier to continue to stay in Miami, and when Brandon was on all these moves that we don't pay attention to, overpaying guys, not addressing needs, poor drafting. This is where Miami is today. It's really kind of their own. Oh, by the way, and like tampering that whole plan to get Tom Brady and
terrible.
Costing yourself a first round pick. I'm not worried tonight. I don't think any Bills fan listening right now should be worried. Go out, have fun tonight. Weather it should be an immaculate. Yeah, it's a great vibes night.
Great vibes night. Yeah, crowd should be rowdy, and I'm expecting it to be a blowout. I'm expecting it to be a double-digit win for the Buffalo Bills. I'm going to even go further and say, you know who gets one tonight? Codrington. Give me a Brandon Codrington touchdown tonight. Special teams. I would see that as a possibility. Codrington feels like he's been close through 2 weeks this season, and I think Codrington finds his way into the end zone tonight on special teams, and you get a full 3 phases of the game victory for the Buffalo Bills. Any concern about Milano and Ed Oliver? Right? No, because why? Because this team, you could probably get by without Ed Oliver. Matt Milano against a speedier opponent, well, let's put in the more athletic Dorian Williams and let him handle that. That actually plays out.
So we were joined by Perino on Tuesday, Matt Perino every Tuesday at 3:25, Syracuse Post-Standard Shop podcast. Ed Oliver's still wearing a walking boot this week. So knowing that, all right, we knew right away he wasn't going to participate. In Milano, it's a pec injury. However, it's not like the one that Daquan Jones had that cost him basically the season. It's more along the lines of what Bernard had around this time last year. So probably he's out next week, maybe even the week after that, but it's nothing major. But you're dealing with a player that is on the wrong side of 30 here. And the more you see Matt Milano, you can see there's some things he can help. But you're getting the sense that this is his last year here in Buffalo, that they restructured the deal. You have Dorian Williams waiting in the wings, and load management has come to the NFL. The Buffalo Bills are a prime example.
Nobody is going to admit it. You'll always have the injury report, and everybody knows how violent this game is. And the idea that every player right now is dealing with an injury or two, bumps and bruises, and an injury that can keep you off the field for a couple of weeks against inferior opponents, against opponents that you can probably get by without an Ed Oliver, let's say. Yeah, you want Ed Oliver for Kansas City. You want Ed Oliver for the postseason.
So one of the questions that I have is, this is all good for players that might be dinged up. How do you manage the guy that we don't think is dinged up but is coming off his best game in years? Joey Bosa, danger, that was so exciting that even on Thursday, I'm like, okay, what are we going to get from Bosa? But in the back of my mind is, all right, do you need Bosa tonight? Do you need Bosa next week? You're going to need Bosa in January. So that, to me, is really going to be the tell. And there is some sort of sack incentive in his contract. I've heard 12. We'll have to get to the bottom of that at some point. But for Joey Bosa, all right, you're up by multiple scores tonight. Get him out of there.
Yeah, I like him in tonight's game. I think he gets a sack of Tua tonight. I know Tua gets the ball out quick, but I think Bosa is the guy that you can key in on and watch tonight and say, yeah, he's going to get after it just like he did last week against the Jets. Offensively, this Dolphins secondary is putrid. There's not a lot going on there. I don't know how much Tobin shared or if I'm regurgitating what he said, but Josh Allen should be able to have his way. He should be able to pick apart this Miami defense in the passing game.
Rasul Douglas. Ooh.
I forgot.
Yeah, he's one of the starting corners there.
Yeah, and if you want to, again, in the spirit of how possibly could Miami win this game, I think you have to eliminate the big plays. I mean, you saw a couple of those big plays against the Ravens in the form of Derrick Henry runs and a couple of really nice plays by Zay Flowers and DeAndre Hopkins. The Dolphins usually will score on those big plays, including a 75-yarder last week. Lots of speed. They can score from anywhere on the field if you're not disciplined. You limit the big plays. Let Miami try to grind out some long drives and get them off the field or force a mistake. Tua will make mistakes. We already know, what his deal is. Anything more than 20 yards downfield is a liability. One read guy. So knowing what you know about Tua, eliminating those big plays, neutralizing their speed, it should be a comfortable Buffalo Bills win tonight.
I have no concern about Josh Allen and the visor, by the way. He's practiced all week. It'll be just fine. And you don't need Superman Josh tonight. And I think he knows that too. So,
Well, if you do need to break glass in case of emergency, it is comforting to know that even if it does, even if it is close, even if there are a couple of plays where you look at Miami and you're like, oh, they're making a game of this, Josh has that gear. And you didn't really see Superman Josh last week. He had one big play, right? One big run. And that was really enough. And it's just comforting to know that you do have that weapon at your disposal. I think you'll see him have a lot of success in the passing game tonight, not so much with his legs, because I don't think he's going to need to put himself at risk. Just stay in the pocket and pick him apart.
Danger and I have had a close discussion here, and it's something that's near and dear to our heart. This is off the Buffalo Bills. But I think it's fair for you, the audience, to know that if our show is going to wrap it up, you want advance warning. You don't want to, come here one day and where did those guys go? So we're just kind of sharing this with you right now. That the perfect stepping off point for our show will be when the PGA Championship comes to town in the year 2035.
Very good.
Yeah, and that would be almost 20 years at that point.
Yeah. 10 years from now. We're doing a Jim Nance right now.
We are doing a Jim Nance right now.
We are retiring 10 years in advance. We know exactly when we're retiring 10 years in advance. We can tell you that the PGA Championship in 2035 will be our last. That will be our last PGA Championship. And that will be it. That will be us riding off into the sunset, Gino. That's big news.
It's huge news.
That's big news.
Well, that's another Mike Danger's gone. What can happen?
I was very excited. Yeah, I was very excited to see that. A little disappointed that we didn't keep that 10-year string going where I thought maybe 2033 would have been in play. We would have gotten it sooner, but I'm not going to complain about a major coming back to Oak Hill in 2035. And, that's much like Nance. We can call our shot, can point to the fences and say that's when we're going to walk off.
They still have us. That's cute. They could be next week. Oh, that was cute there, guys.
Yeah, right. Right. Well, we'll count our blessings for as long as we can. Andy Behrens, the deep shot. Check his work out there as we talk fantasy football and set your week 3 lineup next on The Fan Rochester.
You're listening to the Sports Bar.
It's Bills night, everyone. Buffalo looking to go 3-0 on the season. 12.5 points. They are favored against Miami. Chris Brown on the plan for the Bills tonight.
You know what I think they're going to do? I think they're going to try to pound them into submission first.
I think they do too.
I think they're just going to line up their big people, whether it's Alec Anderson or 3 tight ends, and say, we're coming. Show us you can stop it.
Brownie, Eric Wood, Sal Capaccio will have the call tonight right here on the Fan Rochester. It'll be an 8:15 kickoff. 4 o'clock, we will join the Buffalo Bills radio network. It's a getaway Thursday today in the majors. The Mets are up on the Padres 5-1. They're in the bottom of the 7th. Jays are trailing down in Tampa 4-0 in the 8th. Red Sox trailing to the Athletics 4-2. They're in the 7th. Seattle's up 1-0 in the 6th on Kansas City. Gene Battaglia, the Fan Rochester.
Neat or on the rocks? It's the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
As much as we talk about like what we have to do to stop them, they haven't stopped us. They have not stopped us, and I think it's going to continue tonight too. But I think the players' mindset I think they are so confident right now as a football team that league is probably in trouble.
They're playing really confident right now.
Hall of Famer Thurman Thomas giving his outlook on Dolphins Bills tonight from Highmark Stadium. Pre-game coverage coming up here in 1/2 an hour. We got to set your lineup for week 3 in fantasy football. To do that, we talked to one of our favorites from the deep shot. Here's Andy Behrens. And Andy, we'll start with the game tonight because we were discussing if there were options for you to start for the Buffalo Bills. I don't know that anything changes here through 2 weeks. It feels like you've got Josh Allen, James Cook, must-start plays, and maybe a third has emerged at the tight end position because Dalton Kincaid through 2 weeks has been pretty consistent.
Yeah, the other issue with the tight end position is that we had some guys that we expected would be reliable. I'm thinking T.J. Hawkinson, I'm thinking Mark Andrews, and they certainly have not, right? So we have suddenly it's a minefield. It might have seemed like it was deep on draft day, but all of a sudden it's a bit of a concern. So I think Kincaid is very startable. Cook looks fantastic. Last week we all knew he was good. Last week was a real revelation, and Josh Allen should absolutely crush in this matchup. There's no reason. Daniel Jones just beat the tar out of Miami, and there's no reason Josh Allen can't do that.
Andy, we're trying to set our lineups correctly this week. Oh, boy, if you invested in the Bengals and Joe Burrow or Minnesota, or maybe it's not a problem. And, oh, well, look here. Both of these teams are playing one another. So Bengals and Vikings, how does this cascade now down to everybody else without their starting quarterback?
Yeah, absolutely wild that we are suddenly faced with a Jake Browning versus Carson Wentz matchup. I think the short answer is whatever you thought the absolute ceiling was for guys like Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. Well, I'll exempt Jefferson from this because that's a shorter term situation. But with Jamar Chase, the ceiling is different. It's not, if you were thinking, okay, I'm getting somebody who's going to win the receiving triple crown, or it's going to be 120 and 1,700 and 16 touchdowns, it's probably not going to be that. Jake Browning, however, 2 years ago, we had about a half season of him at the controls, and he was fine. He completed about 70% of his passes. It was 8 yards per attempt. That's okay. He doesn't have the touchdown and yardage upside that you would get from one of the best pocket passers in the game. So it's an issue. We're not going to get a 40 touchdown season out of Jake Browning as you might have expected from Joe Burrow. And that's going to trickle down to everybody else in the offense. But it doesn't mean that you have to sell Jamar Chase. It doesn't mean that he can't finish still as the overall wide receiver 1. It doesn't mean that T. Higgins can't still give us 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns. So it's not dire. It's not desperate. With respect to Carson Wentz, I don't have the slightest idea what we're going to see, and that's a terrible thing for a fantasy analyst to say.
You know what we're going to see, Andy. You know what we're going to see.
Hit the music.
You know exactly what we're going to see out of Carson Wentz in Minnesota. We're going to see a 6'5", 235-pound tower of a human being from North Dakota State with blue-collar work ethic and Midwestern values. You and I were talking about it earlier this week, Andy. He's retiring a Viking. He's going into the Hall of Fame as a Minnesota Viking.
Oh my gosh. We just need it to be a little bit better than it was with JJ McCarthy, right? Like that's all, because we were probably another bad half of football from JJ McCarthy from having this conversation anyway about whether they needed to make a change. So we just need it to be functional. And it's okay if he's Carson Wentz and throws a couple of interceptions, as long as we can just get to like 220, 250 passing yards and feel good about Justin Jefferson again.
Well, along those lines, staying in Minnesota, there's an opportunity here. If you're Kevin O'Connell and you want to lean on the run game a little bit, Jordan Mason now feels like he has a clear path to a heavier workload, does he not?
Yeah, perfect storm game for him too, because he's facing a vulnerable Cincinnati defense. We like that. Aaron Jones is on IR, so he's going to miss a few weeks. Jordan Mason's good, and it's not like, you know, Jordan Mason and Aaron Jones were perfectly paired, because Aaron Jones is a wonderful receiving back, the kind of guy who can like actually go run routes for you, not just a check down option. And I don't think Jordan Mason can do any of that, but he is an absolute hammer on the ground. And if he gets a crease, he can go a long way. He's a fun player to watch, and it's really difficult to imagine that he's not going to see 18 or 20 touches in this one. And it's a great spot. So Jordan Mason is somebody that I think you can begin to view the same way that you were viewing him last year, when he had, you know, the lion's share of the touches in San Francisco's backfield. And that guy was like a top 10, top 12 fantasy option.
We're talking to Andy Behrens, getting your lineups set here, the deep shot. Andy Behrens, check it out online. Andy, as far as the Indianapolis Colts, what is this team all about? And like week one, the way I kind of took it is, okay, that's more about the Dolphins. And then they win week two, and everybody now in a land grab to get Daniel Jones on the roster and whatever other piece here. So what's your read on this? Because sometimes we get a team that's fool's gold here. Your thoughts on the Colts, at least for this week, facing what looks to be a good matchup in Tennessee?
Yeah, I'll admit that I was a week late to this, because I too thought, man, this is just a competent team that's picking on Miami, and that defense is going to be vulnerable all year. And I wasn't proactive about Daniel Jones after a Miami game, but you get a win against Denver and you look like a functional offense doing it, you really have my attention, because that is a good defense that we expect to stay good all year. They are running some fun stuff. I'll say that they are scheming opportunities for Tyler Warren, and he looks great. Josh Downs was wide open on Sunday. That was really good to see, because he didn't have that much involvement in week one. We know that Michael Pittman is a very good player. We know that Alec Pierce is dangerous downfield. A.D. Mitchell, like, they have some weapons, and if you can just keep Daniel Jones sort of on schedule and minimize, like, credit to him. Fumbles have always been an issue before. Turnovers have been an issue before, but we're not really seeing that. He's getting protection. That didn't happen for him in New York. And Daniel Jones, when he has a little bit of protection, can be a pretty functional quarterback. It wasn't perfect last week, but again, considering the quality of opponent, I think that was a really encouraging game. And we know that he's got a little bit of rushing juice. He's got 3 rushing touchdowns already this year. So that gives him a little bit more upside than a pure pocket passer. I'm pretty enthusiastic, and I have him inside my top 12 this week.
Andy Behrens, the deep shot, talking fantasy football here, getting your lineup set for week 3 in advance of pregame here for the Bills and Dolphins coming up at 4 o'clock. Andy, are you, like me and many fantasy owners, managers, just pulling out your hair, upset that you maybe overextended and paid a little bit too much for the production you're getting out of some of these rookie running backs, whether you're talking about Omarion Hampton or Ashton Genty, Travion Henderson? Is there reason to believe that this is going to change, that they are going to get more? The workload is the workload, but just the production, more production out of these guys down the road. Give us your evaluation here through a couple of weeks of a really kind of disappointing start to the season for some of these rookies.
Yeah, it's just not that unusual for rookies across different position groups to start slow. So I wouldn't panic. I guess I would say the one guy that I think you can safely drop, and this pains me because I'm an Iowa fan and Caleb Johnson will never have to pay for a drink in Iowa City, but man, his gaffe last week on the kick return, which swung the game basically away from Pittsburgh, and he had a fumble the week before. I would just be shocked if he's even active this week. And we're about to come into the buys, so you probably can't keep that guy in your roster anymore. So he's probably just a drop. It doesn't mean that he can't be successful late in the season, but I don't think you're going to be able to hold onto him through the buys. Some of these other guys, you're just going to have to be a little bit patient because it's not that easy Ashton Genty was talking about this after the Chargers game about how he was adjusting to the speed of the NFL. And I don't think that's just a throwaway comment. I think that's real. That guy's coming from the Mountain West Conference. And he was just at a level of football where if you make a guy miss, that can be a 60-yard house call, and that's not how the NFL works. If you make a guy miss, there's another guy 2 yards later, and he'll lay the wood, right? It's just a very different experience, and I think he's going to figure it out. There's not anybody else on that depth chart who worries us. The two guys that I would have some concern with here, three guys I'll say. Hampton probably has, number one, a problem with his own level of play to this point, and also Najee Harris is going to see the field. Travion Henderson, they may have only ever intended for him to be like a 12-touch, 15-touch player. And now Ramondre Stevenson just had his best game in 2 years. He looked awesome. So that's a problem. And then R.J. Harvey clearly has a J.K. Dobbins problem because that guy's playing very well. And I don't think that gets better unless and until J.K. Dobbins actually gets hurt.
Andy, one sit-em sort of question in regards to a team. I'm guessing if you drafted Garrett Wilson or Breece Hall, it was with the intention of, okay, that's going to be maybe my RB2 or a wide receiver that I would start. It looked okay week one. It certainly did not look okay against the Buffalo Bills. And now Tyrod comes in, and we all know the pros and cons of Tyrod here. It's a matchup where we figure the Buccaneers are going to move the ball. Do you stay the course with the Jets, or are you steering clear of them in this matchup?
Well, again, we're not in a bye week, so maybe you do have an exciting option at receiver that you might be tempted to play in front of Garrett Wilson. I get it. If you're sitting on Roma Dunze, say, somebody who's tied to a game that has a huge total, right? That Bears-Cowboys game comes to mind. I can imagine sitting Garrett Wilson, although I don't, just as a pure passer, I don't know how much different it's going to look going to Tyrod from Justin Fields. I still feel like Garrett Wilson is a very good player, and he is locked into targets. So he's a guy that I would still trust in most leagues. I also think, I think Breece Hall is fine. I think Breece Hall is a very good player and clearly the number one back there. And I can't honestly imagine having that many better options than Breece Hall. You don't have to feel great about it, but I think you probably have to start a guy who's headed for 18 to 20 touches.
Andy Behrens, the deep shot, our guest in the sports bar with Danger and Battaglia. And Andy, one more from tonight, because we did talk about the Buffalo Bills. But the Dolphins did have a little bit of life to their offense against the Patriots. What are you doing with Tyreek Hill? Are you surprised that he hasn't moved yet? Or at some point, are we still expecting that Tyreek Hill moves? And what about, Achane and Tua and any other pieces of Miami's offense for tonight?
I got to say, it's on my radar that they could have a new head coach, I don't know, tomorrow, Saturday. This game could go very poorly for Miami, and the season has obviously started poorly for Miami. And I think a lot of us feel like Mike McDaniel could be the first head coach fired. I think he's a wonderful interview. I like listening to his press conferences. I like it when he's mic'd up on the sideline, but we could be getting pretty close to the end, and Buffalo is the sort of offense, the sort of team that could really drive that home. I think if it's an embarrassing loss in an island game like this, as it may be, then we're going to have to relearn what Miami is, and that's going to be an issue for everyone. They might have to entertain the idea of trading Tyreek Hill. There's several franchises out there that would probably love to have somebody with exactly that skill set. It might affect the way Devon Achane is used in the second half of the season. Right now, they have the weirdest running back usage in the league. Everything to Achane is even a lot of the rush attempts are really like swing passes that happen to travel backwards, and so they get considered carries. Right? It's just not. it's a weird NFL offense, and it's based on a lot of short stuff to Devon Achane, and it's been good for him fantasy-wise, but it hasn't been great for a whole lot of other people, and they are not winning games with it. So, it's definitely on my radar that we could be in for coaching change there pretty soon.
Yeah, that would be something. By the way, do you know what next Monday night games is? Do you know this, Danger? Next week 4 Monday Night Football? Dolphins and Jets. Can we flex that out of it?
I'm going to call my subscriber and ask for a refund.
Watch baseball maybe that night.
Who thought that was a good idea? My goodness, that's crazy.
Yeah, we've been fortunate so far. Last one for me, Andy. It's always the you gave us good advice week one. I asked you this question. Hey, who should we look at streaming defenses? Hey, Arizona against New Orleans. That makes sense. I stuck with it last week. That paid off. Streaming defenses for this week. Are the Cardinals in the mix? Because normally you would avoid the 49ers. I don't know what's going on there. What defenses would you suggest for us streamers this week?
Yeah, I think the most interesting of them, first of all, I would take a look and see if, people drafted back when people were drafting teams. Micah Parsons was not a member of the Green Bay Packers, and so the Packers defense was not universally rostered. They should be getting pretty close to it, but they were still. I was looking at Yahoo leagues just a week ago. They were still out there in almost 50% of them. So the Packers need to be rostered by somebody, and they get the Browns this week. I don't know that they're a streaming option necessarily, because they're probably a little bit too heavily rostered for that. But I think also Seattle has just looked really good generally defensively, and they get a matchup with Spencer Rattler and the Saints. And I can't believe that at home Seattle isn't going to drop him a couple of times and probably take the ball away from the Saints a couple times. So I think Seattle, among defenses that are widely available, I think they're probably your best option.
Can I get a verdict on a defense that's been kind of quiet, but man, they're going to look good this weekend playing against the Jets and their creamsicles? What about the Bucs for a streaming option?
Yeah, probably. It's just I don't think the Jets intend to, usually what we're chasing after when we're streaming defenses is we just want to find a team like, oh, man, give me Carolina in one of those weeks that they're just going to throw the ball 40 times, which is going to happen a lot with Carolina. That's what we want. We want dropbacks, because dropbacks lead to sacks and they lead to interceptions, and those are the things that drive fantasy scoring. And I think in a typical week, the Jets just don't want to put the ball in the air enough times to make them the sort of offense against which we stream.
Andy, you're great for moving this today every Thursday, normally at 4:30 here Eastern time. But since we got to get to the Buffalo Bills Radio Network here at the top of the hour, tell our audience more about the Deep Shot.
Oh, yeah, they can find all my written content at the Deep Shot, waiver wire stuff, ranks each week. My coworker there, Dalton Del Don, he's got DFS recommendations up right now. He's got a lot of content as well. Also, they can listen to me on the Yacht Club podcast each week with Chris Harris.
Love it. Andy, as always, appreciate the time. We're better fantasy players because of it, and I hope you have a great weekend, bud.
Really appreciate you guys. Good luck to your Bills, and good luck to everybody in fantasy this week.
Thanks, Andy.
Andy Behrens. Check out his work at the Deep Shot. Love having him on to talk some fantasy football. We got to take a break. We'll come back, and we'll set you up for the Buffalo Bills Radio Network pregame coverage coming up here at 4 o'clock on the Fan Rochester. exhausted. The heavy lift in the sports bar with Danger and Battaglia as we get you ready for Bills, Dolphins. Pre-game coverage starting in under 10 minutes.
How many
on the Fan.
people don't have Amazon? Like, what's it going to be like going out tonight? I think, sidebar, I think it's absolutely criminal that this game is not on network TV here. That you don't, it's only the local market. But my gosh, we're only an hour and 10 minutes down the road. So if you're like, whoa, my gosh, I don't have it. You do the old-fashioned thing, 95.7 tonight. Or 96.5 WCMF for that matter.
Absolutely. That's the way to do it. I can tell you last week when I was traveling, I was desperate. I wanted to watch the Thursday night game, but I didn't have my password. And so I'm trying to get the password for my phone and reaching out to everybody in my family. Like, what is it for Prime? And stupid, my my layover was in DC and I forgot. Of course, it's on everywhere here because the Commanders were playing in Lambeau Field and I didn't have to go through all the trouble of trying to find the game on Prime and get my login and everything set for that. So we being just outside of the blast zone here, we'll have to seek it out on Prime, or you can of course hear the action on the Fan Rochester. Kickoff just after 8 o'clock tonight.
Tomorrow, good show we have lined up here tomorrow, Danger. Chris Trapasso, Trap Sheet, will be dissecting what happens tonight, and also Damon Amendolara from the Bill Maddock podcast.
Love DA.
DA will be joining us every Friday, and
if I'm not mistaken, he does a pod after every Bills game.
Right after.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a lot, like, it's just, okay, snap, just take. Very digestible.
That'll be fun. Tomorrow, we'll see what the world looks like starting at 3 o'clock, our brand new episode here of the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. I have the Bills tonight winning 31-20, win, but don't cover. That feels like a lot of points. But I don't think it's going to be an evening where we're uncomfortable with how the game is going.
Yeah, I've got it 30-17. That sounds closer than it is, but if you get to the point where, all right, Trubisky's in. What was the bonus pick this morning?
Bonus pick this morning is that the remaining members of the 72 Dolphins team will hold a press conference showing their disgust for the Miami Dolphins. There might be a press conference. I don't know if it's going to involve the 72 Dolphins. There might be a press conference tomorrow in Miami.
Yeah, do we have a new head coach in Miami this time tomorrow?
Could happen. We're hearing rumblings of that. We'll see. If you missed Andy Barron's, you can go back on our YouTube channel, The Fan Rochester. We stream live every afternoon from 3 until 6. And, of course, you can find us wherever you get your shows. When you search out the Sports Bar, all of our guest appearances are listed there. Buffalo Bills pregame on the way next on the Fan Rochester. Enjoy the game tonight, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow afternoon starting at 3 o'clock here on the Fan.
You're listening to the Sports Bar